Funny story. I'm actually pretty terrified to be standing in front of you all today. No, not because of stage fright or anything like that, but who would have thought that an idea I had when I was 12, fueled by a 30-second YouTube video, would be the reason I'm standing in front of you all today? And what I'm about to say is certainly going to hurt a lot of ears and turn a lot of heads, but it's something that has to be heard. Now, what if I told you that putting your kid in school has the potential to be the worst possible decision you could ever make for them? I think now you can see why I was so afraid. And I'm sure most of the parents in the audience are probably thinking to themselves that, this is just another lazy kid who has come on this stage to tell his parents, Mommy, Daddy, a bad report card isn't everything. I bet I read your minds. But, ladies and gentlemen, my name is John Mckenzie, and before you judge me, I'd like to share with you all a small story. One night in 2010, there was a 2-year-old boy. Now, this night was no ordinary night, because this was his last night as a free man. Well, a free boy, because he's a kid. Well, his dad, who he rarely ever even saw, rolled around and said, "You're going to start school soon." Well, even though he was too young to remember any of it, his mom made sure that he knew that he didn't make the fuss that other kids made. Instead of crying at the entrance about being away from their parents for the first time, he happily waltzed into school, waved a quick goodbye to his mom, and he was on his way. And it didn't take him long at all to realize that he was actually pretty good at this whole school thing. Well, by the time he was in just year 3, he had a reputation. He was the smart one, and he loved school. Well, everyone would gush over how brilliant and smart he was. You're going places. Damn, how did you do so well on that test? Well, one day, something happened. Coronavirus happened. And this little boy was forced into a lockdown with a computer that he barely knew how to use. And after a year of being online, and he got his first report card, he was in for quite a shock. 4 words: he was a failure. He was so traumatized by the marks he got. He didn't even think getting marks like that was humanly possible. And well, after that, and a very long and very difficult conversation with his mom, he realized something, that he didn't like school because he was curious or because he loved to ask questions and figure out the world around him. No. The real reason he liked school was because he loved the praise. He loved perusing through. And he loved the recognition that he would get. And he had based his entire identity off of being the smart one. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that little boy was me. And, well, to back my claim, let's follow a different story. What about someone who's not so smart? Well, right from when they start school, they can feel something is a little off about them. Well, when their friends get a pat on the back for doing a test well, or they write "well done" in your books after you complete an assignment beautifully, they didn't get that recognition. And they actually spend their entire academic journey believing that they will never account to anything in the world. And it was like a label that they couldn't get rid of, the not so smart one. Well, I'd like you all to join me as I sort of break down the school system and its origins. Well, actually, the school system was based upon a Prussian model that they used to bring up good, obedient soldiers. where in 1870 to 1871, France and Prussia were in a war. And the Prussians wanted to win, of course. Who doesn't? But they had a problem. The soldiers that they were training only listened to the generals and superiors that they feared or respected. Now the Prussians couldn't have this, no. So what they did is they came up with a system that would bring up soldiers who listened to orders, no questions asked. And it was so effective that other countries began to pick it up, such as America and Britain. And slowly by slowly, they integrated it into making workers that listened to what they were told and did so without giving it a second thought. And that's why, let's have a look at a picture of a school in the 1900s. And now, let's take a look at a picture of a school now. I mean, aside from the fact that one is in color and the other is in black and white, do we really see any difference? And the more you think about it, the more it starts to make sense. That's why desks are arranged in rows and columns, to mimic their military origins. And have you ever thought about a time you did something that your teacher did not agree with, and they immediately put you down? From day one, you're told to color inside the lines, and your work isn't as nice or as beautiful as someone who did if you didn't. And what if you show up to school without your homework, or you show up late? I'm sure your teacher didn't hesitate to say, "You're lazy." Well, it's from this realization that I came up with the box theory. I'm sorry, the picture's kind of small, but this is our system. It promises brilliant kids the entire world and doesn't deliver. And what about the ones that aren't so smart? They live their entire time in school believing that they'll never account to anything in this world. That big box over there, that represents you at the start of your academic journey. There's so much space that you don't even feel that school actually has a hold on you. And you see that little one over there? That's you at the end of it all. And you have barely any room to wiggle around, and you don't even realize it. Well, I'm not going to stand here and shout, "Take your kids out of school, it's ruining their lives." No. I don't believe that's the way forward. Because I didn't just choose boxes because they were the only thing in my budget, even though that was a factor. I chose boxes because school is not a prison or a locked room. It's more like a box, where with enough vigor and enough strength and perseverance, you can break out of a box. And also, boxes aren't indestructible, where you can easily get a scissor, a cutter, or a glue stick or tape, and you can change the shape of your box. So what do we do? The solution isn't to take your kids out of school. It's to change school. And how do we do this? Well, we can all tell that when your purpose in life isn't to be the next Albert Einstein, that's when things start to get messy. So, my first solution, stop making Einsteins. And let's not label kids at all. And one way I believe we can do this is through something called project-based learning. Where, guys, please, I'm not talking about those assignments your kids bring home of make a booklet or a poster or a model on this. No. There are a number of differences between projects and project-based learning. But the most notable one that I will focus on for this speech is that project-based learning focuses on solving a problem. Instead of you learning something for the sake of cramming syllabus content, you actually work towards trying to fix a problem in the world. Well, my next change would have to be with the teaching. Instead of a teacher coming into class, writing the topic on the board, and just diving into the lessons, what if we started lessons with a cool demonstration or a problem that can only be solved after understanding the contents of the lesson? That way, students can actually base their lessons on actual understanding and seeing how they can apply these things in real life and practically, rather than just cramming to reproduce these answers on a test at the end of the term. And finally, this one might seem a bit strange, but what if we dedicated a little time in a day where students just indulged in absolute nonsense? What I mean is, what if you let the kids do whatever they wanted, as long as it was strange? Even if they're like 17 and they started playing with action figures they had when they were kids, or if they daydreamed about being superheroes, or even if they just sat down and talked about something strange, bizarre, or unorthodox. And the teacher's only role is to sit in the corner, maybe only step in if things get a bit illegal. But they sit there and they don't judge. That way, we can make kids feel that trying new things and being themselves isn't such a bad thing. Now, I know that these 3 small steps aren't going to miraculously change the school system overnight, but it's a start. And in case you were actually bored out of your mind and you couldn't wait for my speech to end, all I want you to go home with is this: no one caused any real, big, or practical change in the world by doing what it said. And as soon as we understand that the world might not always know what's good for it, and that we can make a society of people who are unapologetic about their ideas, and most importantly, do not base their self-worth or value off of the marks they get on a piece of paper, that's when we can build a society and a reality beyond anything anyone has ever imagined. Thank you.